Spring football is still several weeks away. It's time to talk Miami football with all of you here on a Wednesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time. That's my typical intro when I've got nothing somewhat clever to say as a headliner. It's just simply, hey, we're here. We're here to talk Miami football. Leave those comments and questions there. Cam Underwood, State of the U, of course, here to do all of that.
What's going on? Good to be here, guys. I see you are marrying Mario Cristobal's present and past on the shelf behind you with the Miami helmet next to the one of the billion Oregon helmets on that second row there. I'm good with it. Oh, okay.
There's more of his past there. We could put Alabama right there.
Okay. Yeah, because it was in that order. So yeah, I mean, I'm with it. But yeah, good to be here. Got some things to talk about, and hey, we'll maybe make some jokes along the way, guys. It'll be a good time.
As I often quip during situations in which people make comments about what helmets are displayed, either the stage manager was on vacation today, or it was hours and hours of preparation getting the alignment set exactly. So take what you will from it tonight, but we do have Mario Cristobal's career represented behind us here. There is a running back coach who will have to, of course, answer to Mario Cristobal, and he comes in from UCF. Now, we did anticipate that move, and you addressed it last week, Cam, but it is now official.
Yeah, official. I'm looking at the press release from Miami Athletics. Matt Merritt is the new running backs coach. Has been in college coaching for more than a decade and everything. Most recently, he was at USF. And they, had a solid running game. It was like top 30 in the country. Had a 6-win improvement and blew out Syracuse in the Boca Raton Bowl and everything. So, that's great. He worked at Tennessee before that, JMU and Ohio State before that. Georgia Southern, he was running backs coach there, which is, a team that has had some decent success. It was Georgia Southern that beat Florida, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, not State, Southern. Okay, yeah. So, I'm just going through the press release. I don't know if he was there one of those years, but even if it wasn't one of those years, that was a team that had a very solid, rotation of running backs and things like that. So, thought obviously to be a plus person in terms of development from his track record and also recruiting, because you got to be able to do both here at Miami, and rose to the cream of the crop. Mario has a very exhaustive interview process for everything. So, balancing experienced coaches with, up and comers. And I think that Merritt has a good combination of both, where he does have some experience, but also has room to really develop into being a really dynamic coach at the position. So that is official as of today. We, welcome him to the U and everything. Great to have him on staff before spring ball and everything. And this is a guy who actually rushed for 542 yards in college. So, he's done it. Again, I'm not saying that he was, Barry Sanders, 1988 kind of in college or anything, but he's a guy who's done it. He did it on the field to a level, and then, has excelled and risen up the coaching ranks. So, excited to have him. Obviously sad to see Tim Harris Jr. go. I think that he was doing a great job in development and in recruiting and deployment. It's really tough with as many All-American high school running backs as Miami had in the room last year. It's really hard to balance all those guys and get everybody the touches that they think they deserve, and also take advantage of the various skill sets there. I thought he did a really good job with that. So, we wish him well as he goes back to UCF to be their offensive coordinator, and welcome Matt Merritt to the University of Miami family. So here we go.
So Matt Merritt was at Georgia Southern just 2 seasons ago in 2022, correct? That's what I'm seeing. So that Georgia Southern win over Florida, that was back in 2013. But Florida also had a more recent loss to a group of 5. It might have been right at the end of, I don't think it was Dan Mullen's tenure. I think it was, anyway, regardless.
Yeah, Elon in 2017 and 18, JMU in 2019. JMU was 10th nationally in rushing when he was there. I mean, if you go further and further into the past, you continue to see, well, I mean, obviously not super duper far, but, every year that you go back, it's like, oh, like he's been doing this, and, the places he's been have had good running games. So that just adds to, his resume and everything. Really excited to have him here, see what he can do, and just help drive this team forward. So welcome to the U, Matt Merritt.
Before we get to some other discussions, NFL Combine and some other news and notes, a prospect also for the 2025 class. This is what goes on at this channel each and every week. This is pretty much the formula. Cam and I get together on Wednesday night. Cam, of course, delivers the analysis. I do my best to keep up with and provide whatever national perspective that I provide, but Cam is the bulk of the analysis. We have an editor who then edits clips from that show each and every week. The editor does a fine job, has general direction from me. I timestamp the show. The editor does take some liberties in regards to titling the segment. For example, I will give the basic, recruiting update, and then over the course of editing that segment, he may include a couple names if he hears them or so forth. Okay. There was a particular segment that was clipped from our conversation last week dealing with Mario Cristobal's performance in his first 2 years. And I'm the one who generated and initiated the conversation to say, Cam, had you known at the beginning that this is where we would be after 2 seasons? And there were a number of ways in which I framed the question, and that Cam certainly pointed out to the good points of Mario Cristobal's tenure thus far, and then some downside that seems to be rather obvious after 5-7 and 7-6, based on expectations and talent acquisition, which has been the plus side, most of it. And then, so we posted a video that was a clip from the conversation that Cam and I had that stated, okay, so the title given to it, which is my responsibility, everyone, the way these are titled, and I think often people don't watch the video, listen to the video, they get triggered by the title. And the title was again, it's my responsibility what the title is, regardless of whether I title it personally, which I don't, but it's my responsibility. It says Miami, too much for Mario Cristobal, ? And a lot of people took exception to, I'm doubting, not completely, but I'm doubting that largely they're taking exception to the title and not necessarily, Cam, what you said about your evaluation of Mario Cristobal thus far, and mine as well, because I certainly had my input. But yes, a lot of people were none too happy about what we had to say there. Or again, maybe we're just triggered by the title.
Right. I mean, and I know that I get that way sometimes. I do try to dive into the articles or the things that I see along those lines, just to kind of see, maybe there's a disconnect between the headline, which the editor drops versus the content of the article or video or whatever. But hey, it happens. But hey, I mean, I'm glad that I hope that you guys watched it and everything. And if you disagree, then okay, we can disagree without being disagreeable and everything. But regardless of if you had a knee-jerk reaction or not, really need to win a lot of games this year. And I think we're in the position to do it, but we got to do it.
I always think it's a bit amusing when I get the comment, and other people do as well, of course, that create content. Oh, you just put that headline, or you just are trying to get views. Well, yeah, that is kind of the process. We are kind of in the business of trying to get views. But I think we have much proven ourselves, Cam in his position, me in my position more as a host, but also from the editorial standpoint of running the channel, that I think we've proven we are not into clickbait. Yes, but you still have to play the game of YouTube and be as attractive as possible, as alluring as possible. But in no way do we deceive anyone in the way we present the information, the takes in that way at all. So that's the approach, to be as attractive as possible to the viewer, but at the same time to be honest, to be forthright, and to be factual. All right, that's that. Also along those lines, to a certain extent, Bret Bielema posted something on X this week that was not too well received by Miami fans, and I don't necessarily know that I completely get it or understand it. Let's start with this. Miami has signed the 2 top players out of the state of Illinois. So we'll start there.
That's the punchline, or that's kind of the end, right? So as these players officially sign their NIL deals, and look, I know nobody's saying, like, what they're signing their NIL deals. Take from what you will. And again, with all these schools being brought up on infractions and charges and all these things about doing it the wrong way, Miami's not. And Miami's been at the forefront of NIL. Like, we were transfer portal U, and everybody was talking shit about it when it was Manny Diaz. Then we won a couple games with De'Aaron King, and everybody said, wait, hold on a minute. Maybe we should dive into that same ocean, right? Miami's not been brought up on any infractions. There's been whispered allegations and things, but like nothing. So Marquise Lightfoot, All-American defensive end who dominated All-American week, looks like he's going to step into a rotation role, if not larger, this fall. Signs his deal with Canes Connection, and that NIL organization, the main one for the University of Miami, publicized it. Same way as they publicized when every other player signed theirs, including Cameron Ward, all different kind of things. And so then Bret Bielema, coach at Illinois, quote tweets that and says, oh yeah, like, I want to see the brochure. Like, what was the, what's the reason that he's down there, or that, like, some snarky shit basically. And so then Mario Cristobal quote tweets a tweet of somebody who'd put up the 247 state of Illinois rankings, and the number 1 player, Justin Scott, and number 2 player in the state of Illinois, Marquise Lightfoot, both have that U on the graphic next to him. So they both have signed to come on down. And so he quote tweeted it and said, it's my favorite kind of brochure. And I'm just like, hey man, like, run up and get done up. But I mean, like, yeah, you're talking this noise, but like, respectfully, Illinois was not in contention for either of those gentlemen at any point in time. So like, Bret Bielema ostensibly is saying, they would have stayed home and played for the Illinois Fighting Illini if not for nefarious acts from Miami. That's what his tweet was like, implying. And so he's just like, and then Mario was just like, yeah, this is my favorite kind of brochure. You see that they signed, they're coming down here. Be mad if you want to be mad. And like, I wish that this was college basketball, in which scheduling can be dynamic to next season, because like, you have your conference schedule and you have your couple non-conference. Every basketball team has 6-8 games flexibility for next year. Put them on the schedule, line that shit up. But we're not going to do that. It's not going to happen. So Bret Bielema can be salty down there in Urbana-Champaign, or whichever local suburb to that area he lives in, and we're just going to have the best 2 players from the state in which he coaches come down here on campus, enrolled, and on our team. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you, Bert. Enjoy.
I typically like Bret Bielema, but this just doesn't seem, for a lot of reasons, and the one is the clincher, is that they weren't in contention for these players anyway. He's not signing elite players. Right. Sorry, Illinois. You're in a rough, you better concentrate on just getting past the Northwesterns and Indianas of the world in the Big Ten.
I mean, like, look, when you're not signing Hardy Nickerson now, like, there's no
Simeon Rice,
Juice Williams, Aurelius Ben, like those. Remember from back in the early 2000s and whatnot, like when they went and got some real top end 4-star, 5-star, you're not getting those dudes, bro. And with all due respect, you're not getting linemen. I mean, offensive linemen maybe because he played offensive line, but even still, you're probably not getting big dudes against Cristobal on the trail, Bert. I'm sorry, like I hate to be the bearer of bad news, my boy, but like you're upset because we went in your backyard and took the best 2 dudes out of the biggest city in your state, went to Chicago and got both of them, and now you're upset about it. I mean, again, but this is the thing where like you're just yapping at the truck going by, down the road, and it's just like, what did I hear something? Because like I'm not even. Oh, we had to look all the way down there and then see like we're. Again, lions do not compare or concern themselves with the opinions of sheep. Like we're just doing our thing, and all of a sudden you just want to get. I mean, up until today, I don't even know I think that we've done this is 360, 70 something shows. I don't know that I've mentioned Illinois football before today. Like what are we? Okay, hey, whatever. But actually, I think I did because Mike Epstein, the running back from Cypress Bay High School, went out there. I think that might have been a time that I might have mentioned them. But who cares about Illinois football?
Boy, I'm blanking on the name. Wide receiver, number 4, 2017-18, fast guy, Miami.
Philip Dorsett.
No. Didn't he transfer to Illinois and then he...
Oh, no. He was number 7, Brian Hightower.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm mixing him up with somebody else, but it was Hightower. Yes.
Because Jeff Thomas got booted, was going to go there and then came back. That's who you're thinking of.
Okay. I'm thinking of Jeff Thomas, but right. Hightower as well also went there.
Okay. So like maybe a handful of times then. So it's been more than 0, but like I don't know the next time that I will. So anyways, that's what Bret Bielema was on. Whatever. We got the 2 of the dudes that he obviously wanted. Onward, upward, and forward we go.
Miami working on the class of 2025. And so CJ Olofatula. SJ, my apologies.
Yeah, his given name is Susu, S-E-U. A Samoan gentleman who hails from Las Vegas Bishop Gorman High School, 6'3", 295, plays interior O-line, probably going to profile as center as of the rankings right now, which will be updated in 247 Sports Composite. Number 50 overall player in the country, number 2 interior offensive lineman, and number 1 in the state of Nevada. Looking like he's going to follow the well-beaten trail from Bishop Gorman to Miami. So that's your Brevin Jordan, even though there were transfers in between. Bubba Bolden, Tate Martell also, Cyrus Moss, who, he couldn't gain any weight and he's going elsewhere now. Elijah Lofton in this past recruiting class. And now it's going to look like CJ Olofatula. It looks like we're in a good spot. Tom Loy, who has covered many schools for 247 Sports, just last week was promoted to the national recruiting analyst level at 247. He and also Gabby Arudia from 247 Sports, from Inside the U and 247. Both of those gentlemen have logged in Cristobal predictions for Mr. Olofatula from Bishop Gorman to come on down to the U. So, hey, look, you always need offensive linemen. This is a guy who profiles as elite, whether he's guard or center, but, inside, obviously, at 6'3", 295, probably doesn't have the length to play outside. But, I mean, number 2 interior offensive lineman in the country, number 1 in the state of Nevada by 247's proprietary, like their own site rankings, 36th by the composite rankings, 50th overall in the country as an interior offensive lineman. All of that is rarefied air, guys. So remember a couple weeks ago, and actually it's been asked multiple times, where you guys like, hey, where are we going to focus on in this recruiting class of 25? And I said, where we actually low-key need to start looking back? Offensive line. Because the 25 season, the 23 recruits, that being your Francis or Mawinoa, your Samson Okunlola, all those dudes, they're going to be either true juniors or redshirt sophomores. So by the time that this class hits, the Olofatula hits, that class will be in their third year. And honestly, in the transfer portal world, it's like that's real rubber meets road time. If you're not contributing at that point, we've probably recruited over you and developed you. So, and if you're like, Francis Mawanoa, you're probably on a 3-year track to the NFL to, hopefully follow the trajectory of like a Penei Sewell for my Detroit Lions, who graded out as the #1 offensive lineman in the entire National Football League, right? So, yeah, we need to start backfilling for when those guys either transfer out because they're not made for the dirt, or they graduate and go on, or they leave to the NFL and go on. So getting Olofatula in this class would be a good step along that path as we continue just to never divert our attention from big dudes near to the football on offense and defense.
And Cam, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's somewhat even more rare for an interior offensive lineman to rank that high.
Yeah, because the positional value is on tackle. So I mean, there are interior linemen who can rank in the top 50 and and top 30, top 40 and things like that, but like they're few and far between. These are guys who step on campus and play. Like, I think Quentin Nelson was one of those dudes. Parker Boudreaux, his career didn't take the path that his high school ranking might have thought, but like coming out of high school, Parker Boudreaux was famous for having or claiming 85 scholarship offers and things like that. But like everybody in the world wanted him as like a 6'2", 6'3" offensive guard. Nobody had illusions of putting him at tackle. So yeah, the positional value is more on tackle. So when you have a guard that ranks this high, even early in the process, that really speaks to his level of ability. But this is a guy who's multiple-time All-State. He was a Max Preps All-American as a sophomore. So the 2022 football season, he was a Max Prep National All-American, first team, and things like that. This is a guy who's known on the trail for his performing excellence. So seeing those rankings is not a stretch at all. But yeah, it is few times and far between that you really see that many interior offensive linemen ranked that highly.
And of course, he's going to have to prove it on the field. But understand, folks, even in those of you who are skeptical about the rankings, is that there is a clear correlation between rankings and productivity in college and future NFL prospectus.
And just to follow up, last cycle, Jason Zandamela from Clearwater Academy International was the highest ranked interior offensive lineman at 46. Then there was a kid from Erie, Pennsylvania at 53 who went to Penn State. Zandamela went to USC. The year before that, if I scroll back and I click IOL, there was a guy who went to Texas from Arlington Bowie High School. DJ Campbell was 23, then 52, 81, 97. And then the year before that, just to give you another year's worth of data, the interior offensive lineman, Donovan Jackson, who went to O State, was ranked 7th nationally. Good God. But then 43, 68, 82, 83. So that's where, you're seeing like upper 30s pushing 40 being like the ceiling, unless you're like a super freak kind of a player. So there are some who have been ranked in that way, but just to kind of give you context that there's very few who were like top 85 prospects in the class over the last 4 years who play interior offensive line. So that even this early, Olofatula being in that realm, that speaks to the kind of caliber of player that he is and could potentially join this recruiting class for Miami.
Yeah. Top 50 at any position gets your attention regardless, but it's even magnified there. If you're a wide receiver, if you're top 50, you're more like the 6th or 7th wide receiver, something in that range. So excellent get for Miami there for 2025. And of course, if everything
potentially, not yet, but again, if the predictions hold, that would be a good get, of course. Yeah.
Yes, good correction there. I was jumping the gun. He is not committed.
We are not counting chickens before our eggs hatch, sir.
Now, if he does commit and turns out to be the player that he is ranked and rated to be. He may be in the position that 5 current Canes are in, preparing for the NFL Combine in Indianapolis in March. Javion Cohen, Matt Lee, Leonard Taylor, Cam Kinchens, James Williams. And when I read these names, it always strikes me as how quickly the college career goes by for some of these players. The one that strikes me is Leonard Taylor.
Yeah, man. Like,
just seems like yesterday. Yeah.
Right. We were just talking about the Palmetto 5 coming out of Palmetto Senior High School. Savion Collins, who was like a 5-star as a sophomore when he was at Southwest Miami, and then kind of fell off. But he was one of the 5. Brashard Smith, Corey Collier, Jason Marshall, and Leonard Taylor. Like, those 5 dudes, the Palmetto 5, we talked about them. Like, yo, like, this is a thing, and who was going to get them. And, we said, we need at least, 2 in a possible. Ended up getting 2. Obviously one of Jason Marshall that went down to the end. Corey Collier, I was fine without and everything. But yeah, we were just writing that article. I forget who even the old contributor from State of the was a high school or college kid who actually wrote the Palmetto 5 piece after, I had spoken about it and whatnot. But yeah, that whole group, he's gone to the league. So it was just yesterday that he was a freshman on campus and, and career, high school or college career is over. Same thing, Cam Kinchens, James Williams. Remember that recruiting battle against everybody for James Williams and, get him and just blink of an eye, dude. So this is why, obviously going to the games matters and following them and everything, but obviously you want to have the maximum performance possible. But it happens quickly, guys. It happens real fast. But really excited to see all of these guys at the Combine. Really want to see I want to see all of them, honestly. The ones that I'm really watching are James Williams, because I believe he played both safety and backer at the Senior Bowl. I think he played backer more. So I want to see where are the positions listed? It is on the NFL website. Let's see. James Williams is currently on the NFL website listed as a defensive back. I'm interested to see how much he does towards linebacker, because famously, and I've said this for years because, I remember him when he was a freshman because he was damn near the same size, but everybody has been saying, this kid is going to grow out of being a safety. Bud Elliott, when he was on the trail, all the time on the recruiting trail, and he and I know Bud, Bud will still text me sometimes, you know what I mean? Or we'll text each other. But I remember standing on the sidelines of the event, be like, yo, this kid is gigantic. He's going to, and Bud tweeted it. And James Williams famously searched his name, quote tweeted it back and said, nah, coach, I play safety. And said, all right. And then he went out and did some incredible things athletically. And we're like, okay, maybe he does. And he did for a time, but maybe we're getting to that point where the transition is made, right? And especially in this era of football, where you're not going to play 3 traditional 1990s linebackers at that second level. Somebody with his size and ability to put on weight, he's 6'5", 230, bro. You're a cheeseburger away from 235, 240, and probably wouldn't change your athleticism that much. But your skills at the second level and athleticism and size, that might be the place where you're really a money player moving into the professional ranks. So I'm interested to see how he does there. I'm interested to see how Cam Kinchens tests athletically, because I think that will determine his ceiling of draftability, depending on what he runs and how he does his athletic testing, the 3 cone drills, the defensive back specific drills, and things like that. And then Leonard Taylor, I just want to see hopefully the best of him. And we didn't always get the best of him at Miami, but when he turned it on, you couldn't stop him. You know, there were multiple games, and I wrote it in the good, the bad, the ugly every single week. Well, every single time that it happened, which was infrequent. But it was like, hey, remember that game-winning drive that the defense had when 56 just said, "You're not going to block me." Boom, boom, boom. Right? A pressure, a sack, fumble, and like what boom, boom, boom. Had a blocked field goal in the game, and like this, like a couple of times where he was just like, fuck it, I'm bigger, faster, and stronger than you, and I'm better than you, whoever you are on the other side of the football. I need that guy to show up more because it was only in a couple of different spaces. Obviously, I think that Javion Cohen took a huge step forward. Jim Nagy, the director of the Senior Bowl, even said so in a tweet to Alex Mirabal, saying he looked so much better and his film was so much more clean this year than at any time he had been in Alabama. So I just want to see him continue to do his thing. Interested to see what Matt Lee can do. I mean, hey, if he does really well, I wouldn't necessarily mind him on my Detroit Lions because Frank Ragnow looks like he's getting towards the end of his illustrious career. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, there's only 5 dudes. So, like, I've named all 5 and what I'm looking for. But it will be interesting in looking at different things from different guys. But the defensive, especially, the safeties, they got to run. And, I mean, that means they got to be 4 or 5 flat or faster. They just do. They have to hit that number, especially for Cam Kinchens, because Cam Kinchens doesn't have the gift of, the extra 7 inches of height and 35 pounds of muscle as compared to James Williams. So it will be interesting seeing them compete, wishing them the best. And this is just the tip of the iceberg because I think the Miami Hurricanes are getting into a place with the talent acquisition that Mario has displayed where we're going to have more and more guys going to the combine in future years.
Wednesday night is your time to be here for Miami Football Talk. Of course, here at the Voice of College Football, courtesy Cam Underwood, State of the U. Join him and the staff each and every day for Miami football, basketball, baseball starting soon. All of it right there at stateoftheu.com. And, of course, bring a friend or 2 or 50 here each and every week with you. I am headed to the FanDuel win totals for 2024, which I believe have just been released here in the last couple of days.
Oh, yes.
Miami's sitting at 9.5.
9 and a hook. Look, man, it goes 9.5 is the over-under officially.
Yes.
I just wanted to translate that in case, people didn't understand what I meant. So I just wanted to be clear. I knew that you knew, but, sometimes we ask questions for the other people in class. But where? I know that I tweeted it, and I've been tweeting infrequently from State of the U.
While you're looking for that, here's the deal, folks. So 9.5 win total for 12 games. Some people ask about postseason games. Of course, these are not postseason games. We don't know who anyone's going to be playing in the postseason. These are regular season wins. So Miami, you can either believe that they're going to win 10 or more, which you would take the over, or 9 and under. Now, the payout for these particular plays gives you an indication of what Vegas, where they are heavily leaning. I posted a video over in the main channel today with all the Big Ten win totals. I'll get to the other conferences. So I started with the Big Ten, and all but Wisconsin. Wisconsin was the only one where there was basically even money on each side. There was a definite lean from Vegas on all the other win totals for everyone. So if you are not familiar with betting, folks, basically any NFL or college football regular season game, you're going to see if you are wagering against the spread, you're going to see basically even money on each side. You're going to see a figure that says minus 110. That means you need to bet $110 to win 100 if you are correct. That, if you do the math, the simple math is Vegas taking its 9 or 10%, regardless of what happens. So if they get 50% money on each side, they still take their 9 or 10%, continue to build really big, tall buildings. When it comes to this Miami play in particular, the over is plus 116, meaning if you bet $100, you will be paid out $116. So 216 gross, so you'll clear 116, But if you take the under, you have to bet $142. It's minus 142 just to make $100, meaning that they are very much encouraging the over. So while they are putting Miami at 9.5, they're leaning toward probably 9, but they didn't want to go to 9. Of course, they want to break the tie with most of these plays. So they want that hook or that half. So it's at 9.5.
And I mean, that's why when I was doing the over-unders for commitments during like a big visit weekend or something, always put it at a half. Or even if it was like, I know that there's one coming, so it's going to be 1.5. But like, yeah, including that half, there's no ties. You got to, whatever. Now, obviously, lines can move based upon betting movement, but we're not going to do a whole betting, primer show or anything. However, I was looking at the wrong account because I actually tweeted this from my Underwood Sports account. But yeah, so in the ACC, right, the win totals are Miami, Florida State, and Clemson at 9.5. Louisville, NC State, and North Carolina at 8.5. Everybody's 7.5 or under, right? I know that Florida doesn't have like a 9.5 win total like that. There's no possible way. And that's without looking, because no. So the only teams on the schedule this year with big win totals projections are Florida State at 9.5 and Louisville at 8.5. We miss Clemson, we miss NC State, we miss Carolina, and then you're down to Virginia Tech at 7.5. Like, and then like even if the out of conference teams had big over under numbers, I guarantee you they're not thinking that beating Miami is one of those numbers, right? So basically, again, you got 2 games against teams that really are thought of as having high-end potential. This just reinforces what we've said 3 of the 4 last weeks when we were talking about the schedule. It is tailor-made for 10 wins or more. The only thing that can stand in the way of that are the Miami Hurricanes themselves. I've said this for years. If we handle our business, if we do what we need to do, we will be all right. But if we don't turn the ball over a billion times and then whatever shenanigans at the end of the game against, Georgia Tech, like all that took into that, right? Most of those things were self-inflicted. It wasn't really things that they did to us. They just said, we're going to let them beat themselves, and we beat ourselves. Guys, 2 games against teams with 8.5 win totals or higher. That means they're thinking, and I don't know what the numbers are over and under for Louisville, right? But that means they're thinking Louisville 8-4 or 9-3 just by the number, and they're thinking Florida State 9-3 or 10-2. I think they're going to fall off because like they went all in and bought that team for last year, which I'm not saying is like, oh my God, go get them. But like clearly they went all in on being on. They did so much to get and retain those guys and everything. I find it hard to believe that they would only take the small step back that they're being maybe thought of or projected to have. That's just me. I can be wrong, and have been before and will be again. But in this case with them, I don't necessarily see it. But I mean, yeah, that's two teams. Virginia Tech at 7-5. Everybody else is like, either there or who else is on the schedule? We miss SMU at 7.5. We go out to Cal. That's a 6.5 over under. So they're thinking 6-6, 7-5. You got to beat them. We miss Syracuse. Duke with Manny Diaz comes down here. They're 6.5 over under because they lost their quarterback, but they got Malik Murphy. So who knows? But that's not the only thing there. But that's a 6-6, 7-5 team. Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Virginia, Boston College, 4.5. Like, guys, and I know once bitten, twice shy. I know, Cam, we've said this every damn year about I know we've not been wrong to say it. The team has just not had the level of performance. But guys, if you're looking at this schedule and say, like last year, I removed the Georgia Tech game. You could look at that schedule last year and you could say, I can see 4 losses, right? You got A&M, Florida State, Clemson, NC State, Carolina. That's 5 teams right there. And you think, you know, even if you beat 2, maybe you slip up on a random shenanigans because Miami always has the random shenanigans. You can see 4 losses on that schedule. You can't. Absent that 8 turnover game, absent the Tyler Van Dyke breakdown and officiating shenanigans about safety here against Clemson and safety here against Florida State not called and this, that, like absent all of those ridiculous things, you cannot tell me that you look at the schedule and see 3 losses. I'm sorry. Now, if the team doesn't rise to that level of performance, that's on the coaches for development and deployment. But like, as we sit here with all the dudes and the talent on this roster, and you went and got the best returning quarterback in the country from 23 to be your quarterback for 24, guys, it don't get no righter. It don't. I don't know that there's going to be a year that is this tailor-made to walk to 10 wins or more. I don't know. I don't know. But I mean, again, I understand if you're sitting here listening to the sound of my voice and being like, I hear you, and all this makes sense in my head, but in my heart, it's been broken so many times, Cam, I'm not going to vote, or I'm not going to bet the over. I completely and totally understand. I get it 100%. But eventually, some guys are going to have to make positive program changing plays. And eventually, and I don't know, it needs to be this year, but eventually you're going to get there, right? And it took Michigan years. And they kept losing to O State, right? Which clearly in a 2-game schedule was the thing, right? Where they're making strides and they're getting there, but then they still can't get over the hump to get where they need to do. Eventually they did, right? They recruited that team, they developed it, but they had that process. I know that Cristobal has this process, but not only do you have that process, you have a cakewalk schedule, guys. Louisville's a fine team. They're not Ohio State or Penn State level. Sorry. Florida State this next year, they're a good team, and I know that game always is different and but they're not that level. They're not. They won't be this year. I can guarantee you that. So, for me, my mind is definitely on the over. The schedule, cream puff. This schedule, and the difference between the team that I'm going to name and the Miami Hurricanes is the fact that the Miami Hurricanes haven't won anything recently. But this schedule is as soft this year for Miami as Georgia's was for Georgia last year. Now, obviously, Georgia, 2-time defending champion, they're at peak optimization. Miami is growing towards that. But like, you remember how everybody all last year was like, Georgia don't play nobody. They don't play nobody. They're going to blow everybody out. This is the easiest schedule I've ever seen for a championship contender. Miami is not as good as Georgia was, but this schedule is equally as light. So maybe you lose 2 because like there's that 2-game difference between where Georgia is and where Miami is. But bro, this got to be a 10 or 11 win regular season. It just does.
I think people were saying that about Georgia primarily last year because they were scheduled to play Oklahoma non-conference, and because of the realignment, they had to drop that game. And so the non-conference became a complete 4-game walk in the park.
Right.
They still played Missouri, Ole Miss, 2 10-2 teams, Tennessee. Still played a few good teams.
So then, I mean, then you have the argument that this Miami Hurricane schedule is lighter even than that. Okay, sure. But then again, the Miami Hurricanes are not as good as Georgia. So I think that, you know, the comparison in level of the team we're discussing and the schedule that they're facing is still similar in difference, even if like the raw number is different, if that makes sense. But the delta between who they are and who they're playing is similar. So, and again, like I said, even if it's a 2-game depression, because like Miami's not as good as Georgia. Ooh, shocking. Okay, like, but like that means 10-2 should still be right there, guys.
And if I'm reading your correlation, Miami, Michigan, and getting over the hump, Miami getting over the hump is playing to expectations, contending for a conference title, let's say winning 9 or 10 ball games. For Michigan, during Lloyd Carr up against Jim Tressel, they were a top 10 or 15 team almost consistently throughout the 2000s. It was just that Ohio State was like a top 3 or 4 team all the time.
Right.
And then after Hoke and Rich Rod and Hoke, to go in order, Harbaugh brought them back to a 9-3 type status. But again, they weren't top 3 in the country. And then they elevated after 5 or 6 years under Harbaugh.
But that's what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, is that, you know, Ryan Day, 54 wins in 5 years. It's not like all of a sudden there was a 7-5 in there, but Michigan bossed up and went and got them from the top of the list and then surpassed, you know, like, and hopefully if Miami is to make a move like up in terms of performance, like that would easily be, you know, ACC championship game, 10-2, 11-1 regular season. Like, it's right there. So, and I think that the 9.5 number is the right number. And again, I get it. I completely understand if you're like, Cam, I'm not listening to a damn word you're talking to me about the over. Not a single one. No, shut up. It's the under until they prove it. No argument from me, kid. But I'm just saying, it has to be this year.
In addition to Miami being at 9.5 with Clemson and with Florida State, remember, folks, what I said about, of course, Vegas has to be committal to a number and they want it to be on the half, but you can get an indication of where they are leaning by the payout. The payouts on those three are almost identical. Clemson and Miami's are identical, and Florida State's is fractions away. So they are believing that those three teams are in the same position.
I mean, there's an argument to be made there, but of the three, Miami has the easiest schedule, which to me puts them in the most advantageous situation. But we are 6 months and 17 days away from beginning to find out how things are going. P.S. By the way, halfway through the show, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Hope that you guys are enjoying.
Happy Valentine's Day. Yes. I felt so horrible today because I have been without, a significant other for a few years, but typically make my daughter, even though she's in her 20s now, she's my sweetheart. She's that to me. So there's usually something that goes in her direction, flowers, candy, all those sorts of things. But Valentine's Day, it just completely, I had not seen a lot of promotion for it or anything that really clicked. And so she actually wished me a happy Valentine's Day this morning. And I was like, I'm sorry, sweetie. I totally went right by me this year. Paulo, appreciate you being here. Has there been any word on a new safeties coach? If not, who, in your opinion, would be ideal as a hire?
Remember, it is not just a safeties coach. Jamil Adai was coaching all of the defensive backs. And that's how you had two coaches on the defensive line with Jason Taylor and Joe Salavea. So two there, one at linebacker, one at safety. Defensive backs. And then the others were all on offense of the assistants. Because you have. Sorry. So, no, there's not been much word right now. Got into a couple arguments because my boy X, shout out to X in the 305, asked the question, who do you want to be the DB's coach? And I responded with who I want. Who I personally want, and off the top of my head, I put in capital letters D.V.D. DeMarcus Van Dyke. That's who I would want. I had so many people screaming at me. I had people coming in my DMs. I had multiple football staff members DM me. I said, I literally, a friend asked a question. I put a thing up. I didn't say, I've talked to, I have sourced, and who do you want? Knee-jerk reaction, boom. Suffice it to say, that ain't gonna happen. Trust and believe. But I was really shocked by the strong pushback that I got, especially from inside the Hecht. Like, I was just like, I'm a guy who tweets things, like whatever. And like, I know a couple people like who work in Miami and whatever, but I was just like, there were a couple new names in my DM inbox. I was like, whoa, I don't know that I've ever spoken to you, but the fact that you like responded and came, absolutely fun. My bad. So I say that to say that my initial knee-jerk reaction person, that is not an option for a variety of reasons that I will leave alone, that I have heard speculated, and I'm sure that you can speculate in the comments if you like. For me, I need somebody with the flexibility to be able to coach both. And clearly Jamila Dye, having, coached up Tyreek Stevenson right at corner, and the two guys, Cam Kinch's All-American, James Williams, Daryl Porter took a big step forward last year. He did a really great job with both groups. I think and you also want someone who's going to coach both, because you do not want to have to move or remove one of the other assistants to bring in two defensive backs coach. You know what I mean? Because you get 10 assistant coaches, and you have that 10 with 2 on the defensive line and 1 in the secondary. You do not want to then have to go 2 in the secondary, because then somebody else is going to go, right? And I don't think that you want that with what we're seeing in recruiting and development at these other positions, right? I think that a lot of the coaches are doing a great job across the board. And you've already had to change running backs already. I don't know that you really want to go anywhere else. I mean, yeah, because your OC coaches quarterbacks. You just got a new running backs coach. Kevin Beer coaches wide receivers. The new kid, Merritt, not Merritt, Woodiel coaches tight ends. Mirabal is Cristobal's right-hand man coaching offensive line. You got 2 defensive line coaches, a linebackers coach. Am I missing somebody? Special teams coordinator? Or no, the defensive coordinator didn't have a position because Kevin Steele didn't have a position. So maybe you have Lance Guidry coach safeties because that's what he played, and you bring in a cornerbacks coach. Or you go the opposite direction and get the best coach available and have Guidry coach the other position. That's a way that you could go by giving the defensive coordinator his actual position room to coach. So that's a thing. But again, as per usual, I'm ideating this on the fly. So I don't know. I just think you got to go get the best guy possible. And again, has been proven, Miami can and will go get somebody up off their good job. So I don't have a name for you right now. But there are a lot, as I've come to the end of this answer, started to kind of open the door and say there are a lot of different ways that this can go. But, I think it might be a little bit because Cristobal does have a very intensive interview process. And I think that even going back to Lance Guidry and saying, hey, are you down to have your own position room? Are you down to be the whichever position coach as well as the DC? And yeah, there's multiple ways that this can go. I think that we're going to find this out, obviously, hopefully before spring ball, but we'll see which way it goes.
Special teams are important. Special teams are not as important as they once were. There just aren't as many special teams plays in a college football game as there used to be. So case in point, folks, if you look at the number of kickoff returns, let's say, or punt returns, either one of the number 1 team in the nation, I'm not talking about in terms of their effectiveness. I'm talking about which team brought back the most kickoffs or punts this year, and take that back 10 years, take that same number, and that team would be middle of the pack. There's more rugby style punting that's more effective. Coaches don't try to block punts as much because the risk reward just isn't there. For as much as I love a blocked punt, I think that's one of the most fun plays to watch in college football, in football period. The risk reward's just not there. Obviously, the kickoff rules have decentivized the choice to bring the ball out of the end zone or even advance it if you catch it at the 3-yard line, get it at the 25. There's just a number of things. In the punting, in addition to the rugby style, just the punting overall is so much more effective. And then also the risk reward. A lot of coaches are teaching players or coaching players to just secure the football, take the fair catch. Let's take the football and let's go with it. That what we're seeing are less dedicated special teams coaches across college football. They're still there. Do you have a preference as to we can reallocate this position somewhere else and it's more effective, or special teams are still so important to the point where we need a guy dedicated to that spot?
I mean, we didn't have a dedicated special teams coach last year. So I think that, or by title at least, I know that we do have a couple very good analysts on staff who work with kickers and things like that, and like off the field assistants or whatever. So I honestly would say leave it the way that it was. Maybe put it under the responsibilities of your associate head coach or assistant head coach or something, that is, and you see in the NFL, a lot of times special teams coaches are guys who get elevated to head coach because they do have to work with everybody across the roster. That's, how Dan Campbell started, or that was one of his roles, and, other coaches as well. Dan Campbell for your Detroit Lions, who should have been in the Super Bowl, but whatever. Stupid Josh Reynolds struck the goddamn fourth down. Oh, I'm still mad. Anyway, sorry. But no, I don't want to see like a specific guy as the special teams coach, because no, we can use the other coaches in, we can allocate that responsibility between maybe a couple of coaches and have 10 guys who are coaching the positions that play, the 95% of snaps as opposed to the 5%.
I was just double checking. I do not follow the NFL like I used to. I just kind of watch the games, but I'm not like in on the rosters and so forth. But I was about 99.9% sure that Josh Reynolds played at Texas A&M, and I was just double checking. Yes, that Josh Reynolds. Okay.
Indeed.
All right. Good stuff out of all of you tonight. Appreciate you being here. A lot of people asking questions concerning some topics that we have already covered. So please, you can watch the entire video. A lot of people filtering in here late. So always keep in mind, if you join us at any juncture within the hour, that you can head on back and watch what you missed. What's going on there at State of the U this week?
Just talking about basketball, have a couple other pieces up as well. So I urge you guys to go over and fan with us at stateoftheu.com. Got a bunch of other stuff coming down the line in a little bit. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The State of the U, my personal Twitter account, where apparently I parked that tweet about Miami Athletics, because I do that over there as well as at Underwood Sports. THEP305, appreciate you hitting that thumbs up button. Everybody else, follow his example. Hit the like, subscribe, hit the notifications. We're going to be back next week. Going to have a great conversation. Hopefully we'll see you there. And again, hope you guys and your significant others, or not, enjoy your Valentine's Day. And if you don't have a significant other, be your own Valentine.
I'll take that advice. Cam, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here and making this happen as always, sir.
Likewise, Mark. We'll talk soon, my friend.